The Illinois House has approved a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines.
After hours of public hearings and an intense week of negotiations, the plan is now on its way to Governor Pritzker's desk. WGEM's Mike Militich has more from the Capitol.
Democratic sponsors believe the Protect Illinois Communities Act will be one of the strongest assault weapon bans in the country. This plan immediately bans the sale, delivery, and purchase of assault weapons and switches. It also bans the use of magazines with more than 10 rounds of ammunition for long guns and more than 15 rounds for handguns.
The right of the people to keep and bear arms is intended to produce a secure state. We do not have a secure state. Too many people are dying from gun violence.
People who currently own assault weapons will have to submit an affidavit form online with their FOID card number and the make, model, caliber, and serial number for their guns by January 1st of 2024. But many Republican lawmakers say people living in their districts won't comply with the registration of firearms.
We're going to make felons out of taxpayers. Why don't we go after the bad guys, put them behind bars, and actually keep them there?
There are 34 voting yea, 20 vote nay, 0 voting present.
The Senate approved this plan on a 34-20 vote Monday night before it moved to the House. House Republicans believe the ban will be found unconstitutional after it becomes law. Some also say the plan won't address the issue at hand, rising gun violence.
Everyone in this chamber is concerned about gun violence. Everyone in this chamber is concerned about violent crime and reducing violent crime. This bill is not going to reduce violent crime.
And this bill, having received a constitutional majority, is hereby declared passed.
House Democrats faced intense debate from Republicans, but the bill passed on a 68-41 vote, with retiring House GOP leader Jim Durkin backing the plan. Sponsors and advocates are celebrating the bill after years of inaction of proposed bans.
This passage is a huge win for every survivor, for every advocate, for every Illinoisan who's been touched by gun violence and cares about this issue and has poured so much of themselves into this bill. But it's only the first step. There's so much more work that we need to do to address the gun violence epidemic in Illinois.